And a good Tuesday afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Westerville South High School to preview Week 5 of the high school football season. I'm Dave Purpura, along with Jarrod, Ulrey, and our guest to begin the show, our coach to begin the show, is Westerville South coach Matt Chris. Good afternoon, Coach. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys. Good to see you.
The Wildcats are going to host Reynoldsburg on Friday night. A lot on the line. Both teams are undefeated coming into this one. I know we've talked to preview a couple games that you've had so far, but maybe I should say, what other than Michael Mansoray is really standing out about a 4-0 start? I mean, he had 15 touchdowns going into last week. You had a good game against Upper Arlington. What all are you really liking at this point in the year?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is, really excited about the start of the year. Obviously, going into year 3, we feel like we have a pretty good chemistry amongst our staff, good chemistry in our locker room. But we live in this weird place from Sunday to Thursday of 0-0. So right now we're 0-0. But offensively, we've been really happy with our balance. I think Pete Pedrozo, heck of a quarterback, and we got a receiving core that complements Mike really well.
I got a chance to talk to you over the summer a little bit at the 7-on-7 out of Double Coffin, and you were pretty optimistic that day. Did you imagine that you guys could be 4-0 at this point?
Yeah, I tell our guys this all the time. We try not to get too caught up in headlines and all these rankings that are coming out, because at the end of the day, 7 weeks ago, probably nobody thought Westerville South would be anywhere in the mix. And obviously, you guys, you're writing about what you guys currently see, but we know what the work we put in this off season and in the winter when it's snowing and we're out here running sprints. So in that locker room, we got a whole lot of belief in ourselves for sure.
You mentioned your quarterback. What do you like about your defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, you know what, our defense, we'd say points per game, we're struggling a little bit. We'd like to be lower. We think we've given up some big plays that, we'd like to take away. But I think we've been very opportunistic. We had a couple of big 4th down stops against New Albany, similar this past week at UA, big goal line stand to secure the win. So if nothing else, I think opportunistic, and I think, getting takeaways and being opportunistic complements how we're playing offensively in terms of scoring as much as we are.
Well, matchup of 2 4-0 teams, Coach. What are some of your thoughts about this matchup, Friday?
Yeah, so Reynoldsburg, they got a whole lot of big horses over there. They got kids that are very gifted just in terms of size and speed and athleticism. I think Coach White's done a hell of a job. He's been there a long time. I think he's got a culture. I think he's got discipline over there. Those are all things that, I think that showed up last year. They were down late in games and didn't go away and found ways to have big wins. So it's going to come down to, I think, who can control their emotions the quickest in a game like this. And then at the end of the day, our belief is that if we do our job and then we execute to our standard, we're going to be in pretty good shape to have an opportunity to win Friday night.
All right. Well, hey, we will let you get back to preparation.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Have a good week. See you guys.
That's Westerville South coach Matt Chris joining us here on our Facebook Live here on Tuesday afternoon. Boy, there is 4-0 versus 4-0. Certainly a lot of points are on the line for both of these teams. I guess looking at the Reynoldsburg side of things quickly, that's a team that you cover. I saw them in Week 1 against Upper Arlington. They're coming off a close win over Central Crossing. They had to get a field goal from Kosi Goff late in the game to pull out that win 17-15. What's your sense from the Raiders side of things?
Well, I'm sure that they probably they haven't really been challenged a lot the first 4 weeks. I think the Week 1 game is probably, I think Upper Arlington will end up being a solid team, but the teams they played the last 3 weeks are shouldn't really be on their level. So, were they maybe looking past a little bit? There's no way to really know, but I would imagine that they're going to come out with a very focused effort after that kind of a game.
Yeah, maybe that's what they didn't want Reynoldsburg to have, was a close game coming into this. Like I think Coach mentioned, this might be one of the most athletic teams that they're going to see all season long. That's something that stood out to me, and just the depth that they have at these positions. They've got 2 good quarterbacks. I'm not sure one hand can count as many good receivers as they have, because they have a lot of them.
So many of them.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting battle. I believe you're going to be at this one,
yes.
Correct? Yeah, Jarrod Ulrey will have your recap Friday night.
I'm not really sure, like he's saying, at the beginning of the season, would we have circled Westerville South versus Reynoldsburg as being a great matchup this week? We probably wouldn't have at the beginning of the season, but actually I think when I talked to Coach White maybe a couple weeks ago, he was already starting to think a little bit about it. He's like, ooh, there's, things are lining up. Week 5 versus Westerville South could be a really good one. So
I think he might have mentioned that to us when we were out there.
Yeah.
And that's no affront to who they were playing.
Right.
I want to say it was Marion Franklin that week. I'm not exactly sure. But he said, I mean, they had a tough couple weeks of final of the pre-league conference schedule, and then they've got a big OCC Ohio schedule. Westerville South comes in. They've got the Olentangy schools have dominated that league.
OCC Buckeyes is looking maybe as deep as it's been ever since they realigned this league.
You've got a 4-0 Liberty team. You've got this 4-0 South team. Olentangy's 2-2. I was and they lost by 22 points, but they were a playoff team last year, and they had some good flashes against Kaufman. Orange is off to a 3-1 start.
Yeah.
Right. Westerville Central, can't forget about them. They're undefeated, coming off a huge win, and I think we'll talk about them in a few minutes. But you're right. I mean, this is right up there with one of the best leagues in the entire area.
Yeah, looking like it right now. It's kind of a good segue to our next game.
Yeah,
which
the one
is,
where I will be on Friday.
Yes, Groveport at Olentangy Liberty. Another one, two 4-0 teams. I mean, would we have thought this was going to be a huge game 4 weeks ago?
I don't think anybody would have thought 4-0 against 4-0.
Yeah,
at the very least. I mean,
thought maybe
4-0 versus
Groveport
3-1 would have been pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought Groveport would be a team on the rise this year after what they've been through. But yeah.
Well, and you saw them personally on Friday night pull off one of the biggest wins in their program's history. I think that's fair to say, at least in recent memory, edging Pickerington Central 19-14. Game, they like most others in the area faced a little bit of adversity because you had the weather delay. But the Cruisers came out. They ended a long losing streak against Pickerington Central. More importantly than that, though, I think that told people, we're not a fluke 4-0. I mean, this is a bona fide 4-0 team, and a win this week can only serve to build on that.
What was really amazing about that game is Pickerington Central almost had it in their control. They had the lead. I believe they were up 14-7 in that game, and then just kind of a few things just started to line up for Groveport. There was a blocked punt that set up a field goal. There was a big penalty on a drive by Pickerington Central that set up one of Groveport's scores. And then I think it just kind of came down to they just showed a lot of heart in the last 6-7 minutes of that game.
And they can play some ball control as well. I mean, their defense, I was really impressed with their front seven in an earlier game where I saw them. It's Hamilton Township, which is not Pickerington Central, but they really have a pretty good front seven. And it seemed to give the skill positions for Pickerington Central a lot of headaches.
Well, Pickerington Central is going to be fine.
Yes.
They're still a very, very good team. We're going to see them in that range of 8-2, something like that, I'm sure. 8-2, 9. They've certainly got a good chance to be 9-1. I mean, and we'll talk about the game they're going to be playing this Friday in a little bit. What Groveport's done is impressive, and what Liberty's done is very impressive too.
A dominating defensive performance the other night. They beat Davidson 22-10. They gave up one first down in the second half. That was in the final minute of the game. Kind of a battle of wills, pretty much. And Liberty and Davidson has become a really good non-league rivalry over the past couple of years here, and it can't be overstated. I mean, this Region 3. And I suppose we can segue into the next game on this, where you've got 4 4-0 teams. You've got 5 teams that are 3-1. The loser of Davidson and Pickerington Central is going to be 3-2.
Yeah.
The winner, of course, will be 4-1. So, and this is another interesting one, a rematch of the regional final last year, won by Pick Central, who got to the state semifinals for the third year in a row. This obviously was going to be a big game anyway, but you really don't want to get 2 losses in this division. Or in this region, I'm sorry.
You're going to have a couple of teams that are going to be in probably a fairly bad mood heading into this game. I mean, they don't lose games very often out of Hilliard-Davidson or Pickerington Central. And I think it's you're going to see 2 teams very, very focused. Davidson is dealing with some injuries right now. They're trying to get healthy in a few spots. So this might not be the week that you want to play a team like Pickerington Central, even if you're Davidson.
Who's going to be angry?
But they're obviously two extremely well-coached teams, and I'm sure that Davidson's going to have a good plan for how they're going to battle against them.
They always seem to.
Yeah.
And the game will be at Central this week on that beautiful Bermuda grass they put in there. I mean, I walked on it a couple weeks ago. It feels like you're walking on a golf course.
Oh yeah.
It's very nice and good surface for a huge game this Friday. Another game, and these 2 teams are already heading into their second week of league play in the OCC Cardinal. Hilliard Darby and Dublin Jerome, both 3-1 overall, 1-0 in the league. These teams coming off of wins last week, Jerome beating Scioto after a loss to Kaufman, and then Darby's only loss was to Davidson early in the year. So, and these 2 teams have really established themselves very nicely on the ground. Darby always seems to. Scioto came out of the gate with a couple real nice running performances, and that seems to have held up here.
The UCC Cardinal is a fascinating league this year. You think about, I know you could say that about a lot of leagues, but this league in particular, with the fact that Darby, we thought Darby would be really good. You've got Bradley sitting at 0-4, and I don't think we would have seen that. Delaware's 2-2, and they've got a big challenge this week when they play Scioto. Tangi Berlin seems like they're better.
Who beat Delaware last week?
Scioto is 1-3, and I think that they're actually a pretty good team.
I liked what I saw out of them against New Albany a couple weeks ago, other than a couple of errors. They are better than 1-3.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have shocked me at all if they'd have won that game last week against Jerome. And that's nothing against Jerome, but Scioto's got some good athletes. They seem to know what they're doing. It's just been some untimely big plays for the opponents and some rough plays that haven't helped.
As far as the Darby-Jerome game that we're talking about, that's going to come down to a battle in the trenches because both teams love to run the ball. Both teams run the ball really well. Jerome's got a quarterback who runs really well. On top of Adam Booth, Brian Miller's shown a lot of stuff on the ground for them, and obviously we know about Connor Jones for Darby. Is a veteran running back for them.
Some other games to talk about here. We've got some good ones we want to mention here in the next couple of minutes. Clinton Massey and Hartley. You covered this game, if I'm not mistaken, last year down in Clinton County. Now Clinton Massey comes up here this year. They've had some real good meetings over the years, if not important meetings, including in a state semifinal several years back. And when you mention Hartley, you're talking about the #1 team in the state in Division III for the second week in a row.
Well, another thing to keep in mind is that Hartley probably is not going to forget what happened in that game last year. They had a great chance to win that game, and Coach Birchfield has said on a couple of different occasions that he feels like there were some coaching decisions that they made in that game that they are probably wish they could have had back, is probably the best way to say that. I believe they tried a fake punt deep in their own territory. It kind of backfired on them. Clinton Massey scored a touchdown. That's not the only reason that they didn't win the game. There's lots and lots of reasons that a team can lose a game at any time, obviously, but Hartley's going to come. They're very focused. They probably are really looking forward to this matchup because of that.
It's fair to say, or maybe it's proper to say, that was the game in the Lightning League last year as well, like the one that we just came through.
There was a lot of games postponed that night. I believe my game was not one of them, if I remember correctly.
No,
the
I was at a
Hartley
wedding,
Massey
150
was
miles
not
from here.
postponed that night. But a lot of other games in Columbus were.
Yeah, or at least were held up until about midnight to finish off. Olentangy and New Albany, that's a non-league game. These two used to be in the same division, the OCC Capital. This is a crossover now. The thing that stood out to me when I was looking through stats for this preview was that New Albany is averaging 368 yards a game on the ground, including a 445-yard performance on Friday night against Gahanna. That's a game that they pulled away in the second half and won 41-17. Olentangy's passing for almost 230 a game. I'm actually going out there after this to get a story together on quarterback Trent Maddox and some of his receiving core. They've had a pretty solid year so far. They're passing for 230 a game, so it's going to be sort of a battle of wills in a different way, a battle of styles. Who's going to be able to pull it out?
Yeah, New Albany was 7-3 last year, but every indication
New Albany was 7.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, but every indication is that I think they might even be a little bit better than they were last year. They're off to a great start.
They had 3 100-yard rushers on Friday night. Because somebody was dumb and deleted some old statistical emails. I can't tell you the last time that happened, that they had 3 100-yard rushers in a game, but I'd be willing to bet it's been quite some time. And that's really tough for defenses. Now, granted, one of them was quarterback pulled off an 88-yard run and a 36-yard run. That's still 124 right there, but you've got a lot to worry about if you're an opposing defense. And if you're New Albany, you've got to cover a lot of receivers too, like Jake Coleman and Jace Middleton, Caleb Gossett, some guys who are capable of catching the football from Trent Maddox.
Yeah.
Academy and Harvest Prep. We mentioned earlier that league play is already underway in the OCC Cardinal. In the MSL Ohio, it's also underway. This is the second week. Both of these teams coming in at 1-0. I wrote about it in 5 Things to Expect. That one thing that stood out to me was this is a big stretch coming up for Harvest Prep. Not to say it isn't for Academy, but Harvest Prep, they are playing up. We've seen that a lot this year. They've got Academy this week. They've got Grandview Heights next week. And then Reedy's had a decent start.
Right.
Got them in 3 weeks. So this is kind of the beginning of a big stretch for both of these teams.
What's kind of fascinating about Harvest Prep being in this league is that here they are at Division 17. If they can just get a couple of wins against, like a Whitehall or some of the larger schools, like the Buckeye Valley that they already got, it's just going to pump up their computer points resume.
It sure is.
Really quick. So this is a big game for them, and Academy is a solid team.
It's a calculated risk when you go and you're playing up like that. But hey,
it wasn't necessarily their choice.
Well, and that's a good point. But I mean, even when you schedule up like that, like they did, and like they have, that's still a risk when you're a small school, and it's paid off for them so far.
Well, you have to give Coach Milan Smith a lot of credit for the way that he's raised that program. He knows these kids. I probably mentioned this before, but he knows a lot of these kids when they're in like 6th, 7th grade, 8th grade. He's got his system. They've got a really great ball control running system out there. He's got his hand on these guys when they're younger. They know what the system is when they're a lot younger. So when they get to high school, there's not such a huge transition. And that's why, as a Division 7 school, they have great numbers this year. They're in the 40s, I believe, in participation numbers.
That's pretty good.
Whereas you've got some Division 2, Division 3 teams that are right in the 40s, 30s, 40s.
If not less than that.
Especially in the City League. I mean, you've got some that are in the 20s.
Yes.
So,
a couple other games to touch on before we get out of here. One that you wanted to mention was the Marysville Monarchs. They're at 3-1. They're taking on a 2-2 Big Walnut team. It's coming off a big loss to Olentangy Orange. This might be a good chance for Marysville to grab another win, maybe get some more points before they begin a tough OCC Central schedule.
Yeah, sure. And you know, I think I said this a few weeks ago, too, when Marysville was getting ready to play Delaware, that I thought that was a big game. And this is another big one for Marysville because they've got a real chance here to go something like 7-3, something like that. And, I mean, and they're in Region 2. They're not in the same region as most of the other teams in Central Ohio. So they're going to have a real good chance here. I mean, this would be a big game for them. And of course, Big Walnut, they go to 3-2. That's going to help them. They're in the OCC Capital, so they're going to have some winnable games. The OCC Capital is pretty tough at the top, which can have Winchester, Groveport, New Albany. But they're going to have some winnable games in there.
Marysville is 5th in Region 2 coming into this game. A few others of note, Dublin Kaufman at 4-0 is going to host Pickerington Central at 1-3. You've got a battle of two state-ranked teams in Division 3. Number 6, Watterson against number 12, Dayton Chaminade Julienne. Looking at these two games first, that's the first of a couple more of these CCL Greater Catholic League crossovers. What an interesting battle that's been, and a neat arrangement for both of these leagues. They're going to do it again in weeks 4 and 5 next year. But boy, is it producing some great matchups.
Yeah, all the coaches have been pretty excited about it. Actually, I mean, all three of all the CCL coaches have talked about it. All 4 of them. They've all talked about how they're excited about the matchups, and like you said, the games have been pretty good.
Pickerington's North, tough loss to Westerville Central. They take on a Kaufman team that seems to be rolling on all cylinders. I saw them against Olentangy. Brian Threats counted for 4 touchdowns, 3 of them on the ground, 1 of them on a fumble, or on a kickoff return, or fumble that he returned, fumble off the kickoff that he returned for a touchdown.
Pickerington North is still trying to figure out some things, it seems like, and they weren't able to move the ball quite as successfully in their last game as they were 2 weeks ago when they got their win. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond here.
Those other GCL, CCL crossover games, to mention the others, St. Charles is at 3-1. They'll go to Dayton to take on Dayton Carroll. It's 2-2. DeSales is 3-1. They head to Middletown. Fenwick, which is 2-2, and a game in the City League. East is 2-2, and they're going to head up north to take on Centennial 3-1. Any thoughts on any of those games?
This is, every time Centennial plays a game like against, East has 2 wins, so this is really important for Centennial if they want to have any kind of hopes of making the playoffs.
Got to get your points wherever you can. I mean, early, late, it doesn't matter. Well, we're going to wrap it up and get out of here from Westerville South. We will be back with you next Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m. For Coach Matthew Christ and for Jarrod Ulrey, I'm Dave Purpura. So long, everybody.